Hi class, how are you today? Are you even listening to me? You better be. Anyway, the learning target for today is to multiply and divide monomials. First, let's talk about what a monomial is. A monomial is an algebraic expression consisting of one term. That means there's no adding or subtracting going on. Here are some examples of monomials. It can be just a number, like 7. It can be just a variable, like x. It can be a combination of them, 2y. It can be any combination of numbers and variables. Anything up to 5x squared y to the third z. Any combination of numbers and variables in multiplication will work. There just can't be any adding or subtracting going on. Then it's a polynomial, not a monomial. Alright, now we're going to talk about some rules of exponents. First, let's say we have x to the m times x to the n. So we have the same base, the number being raised by the exponent is the same. So x here, x here. So this is called the base, and they have to be the same for this to work. So x to the m times x to the n is going to be x to the m plus n. An example of that would be if we have x to the 5 times x squared would give you x to the 5 plus 2, which is 7. Make sense? Now let's look at dividing. If we have x to the m divided by x to the n, then that'll be x to the m minus n. So the example for that could be x to the 6th divided by x to the 4th. That'll become x to the 6 minus 4, which is 2, so x squared. Next, if we have x to the m to the n, so we're now raising an exponent to another exponent, then that'll be x to the m times n. So if you raise an exponent to an exponent, you're actually multiplying the two exponents. An example here would be x to the 3rd raised to the 4th would be x to the 3 times 4, which is x to the 12th. Now let's say we have x to the 0. X to the 0, unless x is 0 itself, no matter what x is, x to the 0 will always be 1. And that works with any number. As an example, we can say 523 to the 0 power is 1. No matter what number or variable, it works. Then let's say we have x to the negative m. So it's x being raised to the power that's negative. So what that'll do is the negative just means to take the reciprocal of. So you'll flip it, so it'll become 1 over, and then x to the m. The exponent stays, it just becomes positive now since it's on bottom in the denominator. And quick example, again, that works with anything. Let's say we do 2 to the negative 1 would be 1/2, because 2 to the 1 is just 2. Alright, couple more. So now let's say we have x over y, so x is being divided by y, and it's raised to the m. That means we're raising everything in that fraction to the m. So that's the same thing as saying x to the m divided by y to the m. So, example, x over y squared is just x squared divided by y squared. And just a note, this right here is x squared divided by y squared. You can't do this rule over here where we subtract them because the base is different. This is an x, this is an x, so that works. This is an x, this is a y, so it doesn't work. So we can't use that rule here. And finally, if we have x divided by y to the negative m, then that's the same thing as saying y to the m over x to the m. So remember, negative means to take the reciprocal of, so we flipped it. So x went to the bottom and y went to the top. And we still have to take that exponent, make it positive, and bring it to both of these. So, quick example of that. If we had x over y to the negative 3, that would be y cubed over x cubed. Alright, and those are rules of exponents. We'll be using all of these in this lesson. Alright, now let's look at some examples. So here we have 3x squared times 4x cubed. So when you have the numbers in front, these are known as coefficients, you take the numbers in front and you multiply those first. So 3 times 4 will give us 12. Then we look at the exponents. So we have x squared times x to the third. So remember, that's when you add the exponents. So that'll give us x to the 2 plus 3. So that'll give us still 12 there. X to the 5th. And you don't have to always write this step out right here. If you know automatically 2 plus 3 is 5, you can just write 5. And that's the answer there. So 3x squared times 4x cubed will give us 12x to the 5th. Now let's look at this one. So here we have to multiply each thing separately. So here we have negative 6, and we have x, y squared, z cubed, times 5, x to the 4th, y to the 5th, z to the 6th. So we have to multiply each thing separately. So first, the numbers. Negative 6 times 5 will give us negative 30. Then x times x to the 4th. One thing to note, if you have just x by itself, it's always to the first power. So x to the 1. So 1 plus 4 is 5. So that'll give us x to the 5th. Then we have y squared times y to the 5th. So 2 plus 5 is 7. So y to the 7th. And then z cubed times z to the 6th. 3 plus 6 is 9. So z to the 9th. Alright, this one will take a little bit more time. So first we want to look at, we have a monomial being raised to an exponent and another monomial being raised to an exponent. So first we need to raise each of these to the to their respective exponents. So to do that, we need to look at the exponents. So first we have -3 squared. So we raise each thing to the exponent. So -3 squared, well, -3 squared is -3 times -3, which is a positive 9. Then x to the 4th squared, remember when we have an exponent being raised to an exponent, you multiply them. So x to the 4th squared will give us x to the 8th. Then y cubed squared, again, multiply the exponents, so y to the 6th. Then the other one. So 2 cubed, that's 2 times 2 times 2, which is 8. Then x cubed, so it's just x cubed. And then y squared cubed, so again, multiply the exponents. 2 times 3 is again 6. So y to the 6th. Now, we're back to similar to the last problem. We need to multiply those two. So multiply each individually. So 9 times 8 is 72. X to the 8th times x cubed will give us x to the 11th. Remember, add the exponents. And y to the 6th times y to the 6th. 6 plus 6 is 12. So y to the 12th. So now let's look at some examples of dividing monomials. So just like with multiplying, with dividing, you do everything separately. So here we have 8 divided by 2, which will be 4, and then x to the 5th divided by x to the 3rd. So that's where we subtract the exponents. So 5 minus 3 will give us 2. So x squared. So now let's look at this one. So first let's look at the numbers. We have 3 over 2. Can you nicely divide 3 over 2? No. It's a fraction, so you should leave it as a fraction. So just leave it as 3 over 2. Then let's look at x. So here we have x to the 5th divided by x to the 3rd. So 5 minus 3 is 2. So we have x squared. Now let's look at the y's. Here we have y squared divided by y to the 7th. So you would have to do 2 minus 7 is -5. So since it's a -5, you get rid of the negative and you put it on the bottom. So it becomes y to the 5th. So just a note, when you're dividing these, if the bigger number is on top, it stays on top. If the bigger number is on bottom, it stays on bottom. Make sense? Good. If not, please make sure to ask questions when you come to class, or even send me an email. So now let's look at this problem. We have x squared y over x negative 3 y to the 4th. So when you see a negative anywhere, if it's on top, bring it to the bottom. If it's on bottom, bring it to the top. So here we have x to the negative 3. So before we do anything, we want to take that and we want to rewrite this equation. So now we're going to have x squared times x cubed y divided by y to the fourth. See what we did there? We just took this x to the negative 3, we brought it up, and got rid of the negative. So that's the first step. Then we look, x squared times x to the third will give us x to the fifth, and then y, which remember by itself we say that there's a 1 there, so y to the first divided by y to the fourth, 1 minus 4 is a negative 3, so it goes on bottom. So y to the third. Alright, let's do one more example. So here we have 5x to the fourth, y to the seventh, divided by 6y squared, all raised to the negative 2. So remember when I said if you're raised to a negative exponent, first thing you do is flip this entire fraction. Flip it upside down. So that will give you six y squared over 5x to the fourth, y to the seventh squared. So that's the easiest thing to do first. Just take the negative and flip everything with it. Then you need to raise everything to the second power. So 6 squared will give us 36. Y squared squared, remember add the exponents, y to the fourth. 5 squared is 25. X to the fourth squared, 4 times 2 is 8. And y to the seventh squared, 7 times 2 is 14. Now 36 over 25, that can't be reduced at all, so it's going to stay that way. 36 over 25. Then notice the x's, there's only x to the eighth on bottom, so it has to stay x to the eighth on bottom. Then y to the fourth divided by y to the 14th. So 4 minus 14 is negative 10, so that means it's y to the 10th on bottom. And that's our answer. Alright, that's the lesson for today. Please, please, please make sure to remember to take notes on this entire lesson. I know it was rather long, but it happens. So please take notes, bring them to class, and I will see you next class. Have a nice day.